Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figure It Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today I want to talk about some recent news that happened not too long ago, which I know I don't usually do news videos, but this particular subject was not only blasted at me 1,000 times on various social media outlets, but it's also something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is physical media, and presumably the death of it over at Best Buy and Walmart, and I want to address those in kind of specifically, because it's not exactly true, it's just like a little true. But anyway, we'll talk all about it. Before we do that though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all the social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, all that stuff's in there. I appreciate the support on those various outlets, especially Patreon. Thank you very much. Let's get on with it. Now, you'll notice that I am wearing a Blockbuster hoodie. Now, the reason isn't just to give you member berries, and just because I'm old, but I am old, so I remember the glory days of Blockbuster. And I, just this past weekend at the time I post this bonus video, essentially, was a guest at Portland Retro Game Expo, the biggest retro gaming expo that exists anywhere on this planet. You know, we hosted the 4th ever Blockbuster World Championship, officially signed off by Blockbuster, the last one that still exists, and Dish, their parent company. It's as official as it could be. Thousands of people attended and had a wonderful time. Thousands, not millions. Here's the thing. As much as I am a diehard, and I'm sure a lot of you are a diehard, you wouldn't have clicked on this video if you weren't passionate about this, we don't drive the market. Casuals do. And casuals prefer their convenience. Now, the convenience is streaming, as we've talked about before, digital games, etc. That is where the industry is going, and I've been saying that. If you've been watching my channel for the last 14 years, you'll know that A, I'm a big physical media guy, and B, I've been telling everybody, beware the coming digital apocalypse. Now, fortunately, this video can at least tell you we're not quite there, we're not at the edge of the abyss yet, but we have inched closer to it, I'm sad to say. So, what actually happened? First, let's talk about Best Buy, because that's actually what triggered this whole thing. Best Buy, if you're unfamiliar, because if you're outside the US or Canada, there's a good chance you've never seen a Best Buy. It is a big box store chain in the United States and Canada that was kind of famous for selling physical media. They were one of the big proponents of DVDs and Blu-Rays to get the tech onto the scene. And so it's now, I guess they're going to switch around to just selling like refrigerators and televisions and stuff, which they've already been selling, but I guess that's what they're going to lean into more. So the big news was, oh, they're getting rid of all of this. Fortunately, that's not entirely true. They're giving up on the entertainment side of things that are not games, meaning they're getting rid of the DVDs, they're getting rid of the Blu-Rays, and they're getting rid of the 4K Blu-Rays. Now, this isn't that shocking because they already got rid of music CDs like 2 years ago, and it was kind of stunning they were still in it that long. In fact, part of the reason they did was because vinyl records had actually started outperforming music CDs for the first time since like the 1980s, which was largely, of course, off the nostalgia boom, and I'm actually guilty. Like, I've, have bought a bunch of vinyl records, and I don't even have nostalgia for that format. It predates me. I actually just think it sounds better. And I'm not even a music guy. It's just like albums and stuff. Anywho, that's a video that could be on its own. But basically, they're getting out of some of this stuff. Where they're cutting, like I said, is DVDs, which that would make sense because the technology's over a quarter of a century old. Like, I'm a huge physical media guy. I do not buy DVDs of any kind anymore unless it's truly something that was only released in standard definition and just it's not possible to release on Blu-ray for whatever reason. Like sometimes TV shows that are from the 1980s or something. But that's kind of it. So Blu-rays, I'm a huge proponent of. I love getting those things. But even Blu-ray itself, at the time I record this, is like 17 years old. It's closing in on 20 years old tech. And that's also kind of shocking. It makes you feel old, doesn't it? But I can see why. And the Blu-ray also never took off the way DVD did. DVD blew up in a way that was really unmatched, except for maybe VHS itself. And then 4K Blu-ray, the thing that I never even transitioned to as a super fan, I never even got around to getting 4K Blu-rays. So I'm not that shocked because it was becoming more and more of a thing where it was truly only appealing to the hardcorest of hardcore, as depressing as it is. So I'm not that surprised they're giving up on it, but it is also very, very disappointing, and especially because they were one of the biggest proponents of all that. I mean, they had some of the best collector's editions, especially with 4Ks, like steelbooks and all that sort of thing, but that's the decision they made. Now, the silver lining there, this has nothing to do with video games. They're not giving up on physical PS5, physical Xbox, although Microsoft might have at some point. And they're not giving up on physical Switch stuff. I mean, you have to remember, Sony just announced another version of the PlayStation 5, sort of the Slim, that still has a disc drive in it. Like, they're not getting rid of that just yet. So that's the good news, I guess, is that it's not as bad as it could have been. And before we get to the next part, which is the Walmart thing, I do want to kind of address a couple other points. If you're a big physical media guy, this was kind of a bad year for you. Netflix, the company that famously took down Blockbuster, gave up on physical media. They're no longer doing the mail-in envelope thing. That ended in September of this year, 2023. And I'm old, man, like I said. So I remember when Netflix came on the scene. I remember subscribing. I've been with them since then. I remember getting my discs. I'm old enough to remember when Blockbuster and Netflix went head to head, and Blockbuster would give you free rentals if you brought in Netflix like envelopes, because they were trying to, make you think like, hey, it's easier and cooler to go into a physical store, which it actually was, but it didn't matter. Convenience won out. And there's some grand irony in the fact that since the last Blockbuster is still around and is still renting physical media, they actually technically won, as weird as that sounds. But anyway, so that sucked. If you're in Australia, you also found out that Disney is effectively going to stop putting out physical media editions of things. And that's extremely shocking. If you've never been to Australia and you don't understand why that's such a big deal, Australia is the king of physical media, Blu-rays, and DVDs. The king. They have obscure stuff that nobody else gets. It is an unbelievable paradise for physical editions. And for Disney to start there and say that's where we're not going to be in anymore, wow, that is actually really depressing. So apologies to all the Australians and really, frankly, to the rest of humanity, because that sucks for us, but whatever. Now, what is contributing to all this? Obviously, the economics of it, as we talked about, but there might be an underlying factor to this. And here's where we have to go into rumor mill time. And I cannot stress this enough. What I'm about to say is speculation, rumor, not fact, not backed up by anything, just an option, a take, a possibility. Here we go. As a lot of you might know, there was a writer's strike this year that went on for quite a few months, in which basically I did a video on this, but it truncates down to this. Writers, in particular, a lot of the content creators of big Hollywood of things, are paid upfront fees for their work, but they're supposed to be paid residuals. However, they weren't being paid residuals for digital distribution content because all these rules were written before digital distribution existed. Now, I did a video in which I talked about basically the triangle of economics and how this works in any sort of exchange. In short, you cannot have all three parties of a triangle win. Now, one example would be the content creator. So let's just say X guy who made a movie. Then there's X company that owns the movie, let's say it's Disney, and then there's you, the consumer, who wants to watch it. Those are the three parties involved. Now, for Disney to win, they have to be making as much money as possible, right? If you're the content creator, you too are also trying to make as much money as possible. Now, if you're the consumer, your goal is to get as much for as little money as possible. How do you make that work? You can't. Not everybody can win in that situation. If I want, for a dumb, over-exaggerated example here, if I wanted to pay just $1 a month for Disney Plus, then that's a great deal for me. But that means Disney themselves got part of $1, and the content creator, best case scenario, got part of $1. Hardly worth doing the work for. Two people lose, one person wins. Or flip it around to the triangle. Basically, one side has to always lose. It's impossible to have all three win. Sometimes you have two people losing, but best case scenario, you have 2 out of the 3 winning. So what effectively was happening with digital streaming is that the consumer was winning because they had a cheap entry rate into the format, and the companies were winning because they could basically, depend on revenue for streaming for content they already owned and had like lock, stock, and barrel. At least that was the idea. And they didn't have to pay out royalties to all these people because it wasn't really written into the rules. That's how they were kind of winning. They were only kind of winning. Really, the consumers were winning there. So we don't know, at least I don't, all the deals, all the terms of the strike and like when it ended and exactly what they get. But we do know they're going to start having digital distribution payments. So that either comes from, say, Disney in this example, or it comes from you and your fee going up. So we don't know that yet, but it is possible that companies looked at it. And the reason I'm bringing this all up is it's possible all these companies like Netflix and Disney looked at this and said, if we cut out the physical media stuff, then that's less cost to deal with. It's no longer really worth supporting. It's only the diehards that are doing it, and we still have to pay royalties on it. If we now have to start paying royalties on the digital distribution stuff, then I don't want to pay for this too. And it's possible that physical media stuff is getting axed out to support that. I don't know that. That is rumor. That is not something I actually know. And I don't want a bunch of tweets being like, YouTuber confirms that writer's strike is reason for physical media death. Because that did not, I don't know that. Now, the only reason I bring it up in such a bolsterous type of way is the second part of this story was about Walmart. Now, over the weekend, when I was out at PRGE, I got a ton of tweets about Walmart abandoning Xbox. No more physical media at Xbox. And I was like, wow, that's a big deal. You know, it's also oddly particular, but that's a big deal. What was that? So in getting back here, I finally had time to like do some homework on it, look at it, and see what the deal is. Every single article about this all led back to the exact same source. And that source was the CEO of Limited Run Games, a guy named Josh, who I've actually met. On his personal Twitter, he was just kind of spouting his opinion about the Best Buy situation. And this is not to knock him. All he did was just throw into the ether an opinion, much like I just did a second ago. It's speculation time. But people ran with it as a news story. He basically just said, hey man, this isn't that shocking. I've also been hearing rumors, you know, Walmart might give up on Xbox. That's effectively what his tweet said. And a ton of articles were written about like Xbox abandoning Walmart or Walmart abandoning Xbox, etc. Based solely on the tweet of a guy who works for neither company. The internet's fun, right? Don't just read the headlines. That's basically what I'm saying. So, in other words, with the Best Buy situation, your games are safe for a while. Your movies, your Blu-Rays, all that stuff, DVDs, that will end effectively at Q1 2024, so possibly around January. And Walmart is not changing anything. At least not yet. That is, again, rumor mill. It's not actually fact. Now, he might ultimately prove to be right. There could be an announcement in a month or two, 6 months, a year, who knows, where they just say, like, Walmart actually does do that. But at the moment in time in which we exist, this story is just rumor mill. It's not actually factual. So, I hope that clears up some of this. We are not quite ready to jump off that bridge and say physical media is no more. But yes, the sad truth is, this is getting worse, and it's only going to get worse and worse. So if you're a physical media guy, support what you can. Odds are there's going to be a lot of indie stuff that ends up through Shout Factory and all that sort of thing where you're going to have to start paying more. Because the whole basis of physical media, why they were willing to sell it to you in the first place, was A, it was the only distribution option at the time, but also if you go back to the original VHS days, back in the day, companies didn't actually want to sell you the home video because they wanted you to go back to theaters and everything and rewatch it. And the idea of selling it to you on video is like they wouldn't make money off of every single reissue of it. Like every time you, like if you were a kid and you watched Dumbo on VHS like 100 times, they were only able to sell it to you once. And therefore, that like you watched it 100 times, but they only got one payment. That always bothered them. So the eventual agreement was that VHS tapes would be ludicrously expensive. Believe it or not, they used to be like $100 a tape, which is why Blockbuster even came into existence. Because they were like, look, the average person can't afford that, but we'll pay for it, and then we'll rent it off to people. That way, you know, Disney was willing to sell you a $100 VHS tape of Dumbo because they figured there's more. It doesn't matter how many times you watch it, it'll never be worth $100. Essentially, was their logic. And Blockbuster thought, okay, the average person won't do that, but if we rent this out 100 times, then we've won. So everybody kind of won until the company started making the physical media cheaper, which partially contributed to the death of Blockbuster. Partially. So the same applies to Blu-rays. You know, they only would sell them to you for like $20 because that's, you know, the actual plastic and everything in it is like 8 cents worth of plastic. That's not where they're making the money. They're essentially overcharging you on a licensing fee. But now that that element is trying to go away too, said licensing fee will probably go up way higher. And you might end up with a situation like you do in Japan, where new Blu-rays are like $80 a pop. That is a thing. As Japan gets all the credit for like cheap video games, they're exactly the opposite with movies and TV shows. They love their physical media, but they still have that original 1980s mentality of, well, if you're going to put it out on physical media and I'm not going to have it, and the company isn't going to make money off of every single viewing, then we need to overcharge you like crazy. Because they still actually have, I think it's Tetsuya, I think, the name of the chain. It's kind of like a Blockbuster that's still very successful in Japan. It's a different world over there. Point is, we may still have our physical media, but it may truly only go to the most diehard of diehards. You may end up getting it only through companies like Shout Factory and so on and so forth. So, sorry to be kind of somber there, but the good news is, if you will, that those rumors aren't quite true and your physical media is not quite dead yet. So, I intend to go down with the ship, everybody, and I hope you will as well. So, anyway, as far as this video goes, thank you so much for watching. If you guys, again, could please like it, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that before, and leave me thoughts on this. Like, what do you think of all of this? And was this informative? Would you like to see more videos like this? Because I don't usually do any sort of news updates because I don't really like them. But if you guys kind of are more fascinated on occasional topics that come out and you want to see them, let me know. Because again, this is just a bonus video. I am curious. But again, all the social media stuff is in the description. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, and my travel channel. I appreciate the support in all those various places. Again, especially Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.